All right, so good evening. It is Monday, October 7th, 2024, and I'm calling this special meeting of the Groton Board of Education to order at 6:03 p.m. And so our first agenda item is discussion and possible action regarding the acceptance of the DODEA Grant Award. So Susan, if you'd like to present.
All right. Well, as you know, I've been keeping you informed during board notes and other conversations that we were awaiting grant number 8 from Department of Defense Education Activity over the past 10 years, 9 years. And this one came through to us just at the end of last month. The name is called, it's DODEA 2024, Lifelong Learners, Global Scholars, Extending the Reach of International Baccalaureate Education for All Groton Students. And it is about $1,250,000 over 5 years, and it breaks out pretty evenly across the 5 years. I would say that it really is focused on the international baccalaureate programs that we began. IB diploma program began 20 years ago. We're one of 3 school districts that has it. It's definitely offered rigorous and relevant education. It's really seen in the Department of Defense world as something that is really unifying for students who go across the country, across the globe. When we first started looking at it, the board actually went to the MYP schools. I think Andrea can remember that they really were investigating MYP prior to us, getting the grant from the federal government and implementing it. And I would say our DODEA partners were saying that we have such a gold mine here in Groton that so many other military children, especially submariners children, are in Groton at least 1 or 2 or 3 tours of their experience. And it's really good to come home to Groton with all that we offer. And this is one of those things. So they were really encouraging us to continue. Part of DODEA grants is the sustainability. And when Shannon and I were kind of going through the first one on technology, then literacy, then mathematics and science and STEM and careers, they really all coincide and they kind of overlap in the way we've received them. So it really is an ongoing opportunity. But with this grant, I have to tell you that it will help support our students. There are tutors in the grant. Every grant has to have a project director as required by DODEA and an evaluator. Ben Moon and Val have both been project directors of our grants, and they've done a stellar job. And then there's also opportunity from some stipends for IB leadership, stipends for teachers to work on curriculum. That's usually something that the board takes on. Professional learning is essential. And I just wanted to bring up that Beverly had asked me a question, and it's going to be in board notes this week, about our work with those higher order classes with the AP, IB, ECE. How many kids are participating in a diploma program or taking the courses? And we really recognize that COVID, there were some areas where we actually grew in these areas. But I would say when we're looking at the data this year, it by far surpasses any other year in the past 10 years. And that means that our high school has supported its teachers in professional learning. Prior to getting this DODEA grant for IB, we received a NIMSI, National Math Science Institute, which I've talked to you a lot about, which gave professional learning to AP teachers. And we got the dual enrollment grant, which helped our teachers to align curriculum, AP, IB, ECE, so a kid could get a certification in IB. They could get credit either through AP or UConn credit. And so it's really looking for more equitable opportunities for our students. And if there's any mission in teaching and learning that is Groton's, that all of us have been involved in, especially this board, it's about those equal opportunities and seeing that we're supporting our students and that they're having every opportunity. And it's interesting, I read just an article before I got here, and the article was called All Means All. And it was written by Peter Cookson. And it was in my school administrator magazine that I flipped through, and it caught my eye. That and the attendance issue, which I shared with Matt Schulman, was another great article. So I have to tell you that really what they're saying is that it really matters to make sure that we have rigorous and relevant education and that our teachers have the professional learning that they need. It's required that we have compassionate learning environments where all kids feel like they belong and they all have access to whatever we have to offer, whether it's in sports or whether it's in music or whether it's in schools. And I understand how this board feels about that. You're as passionate as anyone. And there are two design principles, he said. And when I think about IB, I think of these things: create communities of compassion, inclusion, and identity safety, create communities of intellectual excitement, excellence, rigor, and relevance. And when I think about the Groton 2020, it was about excellence, equity, and also efficiencies. And this brings all three of those together in this one grant. So I'm particularly proud of this. It does last for the next 5 years. And like I said, it's very sustainable. After those 5 years, you won't need the project director, you won't need the evaluator. We probably still will need more tutors, but we're going to be looking for tutors everywhere we go to help support our students in every level. So I think it's a really solid grant, and I think it's one that we don't have to really pay for anything. I think there's 14,000 of fringe benefits for the 5 years of the grant, but that's it. So there's really no matching funds. I don't know, Shannon, if you want to add anything to that. I just wanted to give it kind of a shout out. And certainly your work with the whole team that you see in front of you, and then there's some that aren't here with the principals, but
Yeah, I mean, I think you explained everything well, Susan. I don't think you left anything out. There were a lot of people involved in the development of the proposal. This is something at least in the 10 years that I've been here, that it seems the district has been working towards. And like you said, this grant will support IB professional development that is necessary at this time. A lot of our teachers are in need of sort of renewing their professional development. Yeah, so I'm happy to answer questions, but I think you pretty much covered it, Susan.
and I think we do have turnover. We have new teachers, but one of the things that we do well in Groton is we train the trainers so that those who have been trained, they are mentor other new teachers through the team program, through just being their next door neighbor in a classroom. And we really do share. When you go through a walkthrough, you see one classroom to another really have shared lesson designs, and there's a lot of coherence from classroom to classroom and building to building.
One thing I did want to mention is, like all the DODEA grants, the first year is meant to be the planning year. So this year will involve a lot of discussion among all the key stakeholders, which is really, I mean, across all buildings, board included. And just a reminder that we're required to, there's several tiers of evaluation with these projects. So we, as a district, are required to hire a project evaluator. We have a couple project evaluators that we're already working with on our three grants that are three projects that are underway. And then DODEA has its own evaluation center. I think it's called the Evaluation Technical Assistance Center, ETAC, we call it. Yeah. They call it. So just, yeah, many layers of evaluation. So, I mean, it's kind of exciting that, with all the work that we've done around IB, this is really an opportunity to, in a way, kind of step back and really look at what we've been doing, what direction we're headed in, and to have a couple extra eyes, outside of the district, kind of looking in and maybe offering their, perspective. And it's just, yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, and it's coming at just the right time.
Anne Marie, did you want to say anything with your experience in East Hartford, which is another district that has an inter-district magnet IB world?
Sure. I was fortunate to actually work in two different districts that have been part of, I believe, the other two districts that you're referring to. I know that Groton is one of three here in Connecticut, and I have now been a part of all three. So I'm fortunate to be a part of all three of those districts that have been part of the IB world. And, I really can't speak enough about IB and the program, the academic program, and the impact that it has on students. It really is such a strong academic program, and the results, really where I have seen it the most is in terms of the reading and writing program and the strengths, the results that I've seen in students. It's tremendous. So I see it all the way through. I was lucky enough at CREC to when they were bringing in, well, first, actually, when I was a teacher at the Metropolitan Learning Center, I was part of the initial training first, before even that, when we were going out and scouting. I was part of the school when they were bringing in the MYP program and the DP program. And then I was promoted to central office when they were bringing in the PYP, or primary years program, into some of their elementary schools. And I saw the impact as CREC was bringing in that through a K-12 lens, and as they were building that program district wide. And then I transitioned over to East Hartford Public Schools. At the time, they started with SEBA, which is consistently one of the top two high schools in the state. Currently, actually, it's number one. They've had a number of students go through that program. It's a very high-performing program. A number of high-performing students have gone through there. Dr. Wenzel, Diana Wenzel's former commissioner of the State Department of Education, her son recently graduated from there. The current president of UConn, her child attended SEBA. A number of high-level students attend SEBA. That is a very high-flying program. Students that graduate from SEBA attend very high-level universities, get scholarships to attend great programs just because of the academic program that they offer. The school is a small school, but all of the students that attend there are IB students. So unlike Fitch, which is a kind of a program within a larger school, all of the students that go to SEBA know that they're going to be taking the exam and be IB students. And so, again, I can't speak enough about the program that is offered at that particular school. And then because of the success of that program, East Hartford developed a middle school and an elementary school that students feed into from there. But SEBA is an interdistrict magnet school in which students from 40 different districts, I believe, from the greater Hartford area have the ability to apply and go to that school. And in addition to that, sometimes we would take students in from schools or districts as far away as Branford, even because they applied and were admitted through the RESCO lottery. So I know it's a program that's in high demand. The students that attend there are, achieve at high levels, and not because they were high achievers in terms of before they applied. They're high achievers because as a result of that academic program and the preparation that this academic program, brings about as, that because of the academic program as a result of this academic program.
Did anyone else have any words to say, or should we take some questions?
Matthew?
Thank you, Jay. I was impressed, Anne-Marie, when you said that the high achievement came not because of the prior academic status of the kids, because of the programs. Were you in your other locations fortunate enough to get kids who are not meeting state minimum standards and get them up? Or is this a pool that comes from people who meet minimum standards?
Thank you for asking that question. Yeah, so as you probably remember, or you may or may not remember, the students, or where I was East Hartford Public Schools. And so the majority of the students that fed into the Connecticut IB Academy, or what we refer to as CEBA, were students from East Hartford and Hartford. And so many of those students, and I don't want to make this sound like I'm stereotyping, but the just facts and data show that those students that were entering the school were not students that were prior to enrolling, were not students that were meeting the proficiency on the Smarter Balance assessment. Some were, but the majority of those students were not entering at proficiency prior to enrolling at that school.
I thank you very much, and I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to emulate that success there as part of a multi-pronged program to boost our academic achievement amongst the publics that have had a hard time getting there.
Okay, next I'm going to recognize Beverly.
Thanks, Jay. Susan, how many military students are enrolled in the IB program? Do you know that?
I don't have that number, but that's something that we'll be watching very carefully in the grant. It's going to matter all of our students, because all means all, but it will matter for the DODEA to look at percentages of military kids, and how do we encourage kids who are transient, like our military kids, to enroll in something when they might have spent 2 years in Washington State, or they might have been across the bridge in New London, and how do we make sure that we're offering both, all of these courses, including our career pathways. So, that is something that does get looked at in all these DODEA grants. So I will bring you that data. I don't know,
Okay.
Shannon, if you remember the percentage.
Well, so the percentage of military students that take IB classes and are enrolled in the IB diploma program mirrors the percentage of students as a whole at Fitch High School. So it's about 10% of the population.
Okay. Another question. The project manager's salary that's in the grant, is that their only salary, or do they have another salary and that's on top of their other salary?
That's a salary for the project manager. There are, for instances, in past ODIAs where it might be a part of the salary, but this is considering, the entire piece. We are looking at some retired folks that have had their world in this world of IB, so have really knowledge, but are looking for something more part-time, kind of like our friend Val, although she's done 2 at a time at times. So she has really taken them on.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, any other board members that would like to ask a question at this point? Recognize Ian.
Oh,
Ian,
sorry.
I don't see you. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. So I got 2 devices going here. I'm
I
speaking
see
from my
that.
cell phone, and I have my computer up so that I can project the document later. But so just refresh my memory. How much is the salary for the project manager, and how much is the cost for the project evaluator?
So it's 40,000 for the project director, and like I said, it's like a half-time job. And for the I'm looking for the evaluator. We've not paid we've been pretty fortunate in what we've paid the evaluators, because they can be college professors that demand quite a bit of money. I'm looking for it right now. Oh, there it is, 7,000 per year.
7,000 per year. Okay.
Mhm.
And if my memory serves from the meeting where we discussed this, this grant is supposed to be spread over the over the span of a number of years?
5 years.
5 years?
Yep.
5 years.
And I think I
Okay.
gave you the budget for the first year, showing you that it's about a fifth, but it is the planning year too. So we might not get everything that we say. It's about 240 grand the first year, but I'm not sure that we'll get to all of that we're hoping to get to. So it rolls forward, and if you need it to make some changes, you can make them, but there's a process that you have to go through, and you've got to get permission from DODEA.
Making changes in the amount that's spent per year, or making changes in where
certain
it's spent?
categories. So, and Val, would you like to speak to that? I see your mouth moving, but I can't hear you.
It's okay. It's always moving. You can, like, for instance, if you find that you need more professional development versus supplies, or say you're along with, the powers to be, you could submit a request to move funds. You don't get any more money, but you may be able to move a fund from supplies to professional development.
And there's
Okay.
times that we do the opposite. We might find that we've done the professional learning, and then we want to get some supplies that the team or teachers had recommended, or resources. So we can do that too. We can shift it either way with permission.
And the requirement for this grant, it strictly adheres to the IB program. It has to be associated to the IB program in one way or the other.
In one way or the other. Yep.
Okay.
But it does, just like with the NIMSY work that we did with AP, there were teachers that teach both AP and IB. We've got a lot of that going on, Ian. It's really a good synergy. So it's going to support middle school and high school teachers, and it will also support elementary as we do some scouting to see, what that looks like. But really the majority of the grant is really the secondary. But we did get the funding because it is branched out to looking at data K through 12.
Okay. Thank you for that. And just with the project director salary and the project evaluator salary, is that a thing that's assessed against the grant on the annual basis, or is it over the life of the grant? Should I divide those numbers by 4 or by 5, or should I multiply them by 5?
Multiply by 5. And you're right about the assessing. There is a lot of evaluation that goes with this. It keeps us very honest, Ian, and it's a good thing. Val has done, and Ben have done a tremendous job, but they have, and you can speak to this better than I, but they have, reviews. I think, are they on the quarter or the trimester, and then annually or mid? I think you guys can talk to this better than I, but we're collecting data all the time. Lauren Cassini will help us a great deal with this, and we'll share the data in data teams as well, and with the board. So
excellent. Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. And as per our conversation back about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, I think this would be a great test case for moving into the model where every time that there's a review or report submitted through the process that you have to do as part of the grant reporting, to be able to share that data directly with the board as part of the reporting out. Just so basically you're not having to duplicate work, just share with us what it is you're submitting to the grantor. So
Val or Ben, do you want to speak to, I know you have a fall, something you're doing right now. Do you want to speak to that? What that looks like?
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, so we're in the process right now of completing our annual reports, which are due at the end of October. So Val and I both are working with our respective grant evaluators to submit, review, analyze all of the data that we've collected over the years, over this past year. And then also we do, phone interviews to, fill in the details of the narrative. So that the grant evaluator is able to report on the key activities that have happened and the outcomes of those activities. So that's where we are right now. We should have drafts of those sometime in the next 10 days-ish, but we'll be ready to submit those reports as per requirements end of this month.
And what Ben and I will submit, a lot of times we've done some surveys. We're in charge of doing the surveys. Like tomorrow we have TLI day. I will send out evaluations. I'll go to, I have a world language grant, send evaluations so that I look at the evaluations, turn those over to the evaluator to see how our PDs are going. So there's a lot involved in the report that is showing accountability on what we're doing.
Besides surveying, we do this thing called an efficacy study for educators,
Right.
where they really have to, through questioning, a line of questioning, evaluate their own growth and development based on some of this work that they're doing. And it's so eye-opening. And it's a really responsive way for the district to see what do we need to do more of, what could we do less of, and the teachers will indicate that even through discussion, conversation. So whether it might be a survey, it might be an efficacy study, or it might be conversation. And we're doing it also with parents and with students too.
Well, that's all great, and I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad to hear that there's something already in process as far as like, or something that's immediately that could come through that we could take a look at. It's as many have probably already picked up that there's a large contingency on this board that are very interested in the details and the data and as much raw information as we can get, ground level information. And I just, I appreciate the feedback, appreciate the efforts. And again, I'm not trying to pile on any work. I just would want to get a view as it is, as to what the evaluator is receiving. If we could get a look at that as well, that'd be great. Be able to just piggyback along with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to ask a overview question, then I'm going to recognize Bev and then Matthew. So for someone who's tuning in tonight and has no idea what we're talking about when we talk about IB, I wonder if one of you could just give the elevator speech about, I know there's different levels. Obviously, we all know there's the diploma program, there's standalone IB classes, there's the middle years program, career program. So maybe somebody could just give a quick overview, and does this support all of those levels?
The answer to your second question is it supports all of it. And there's almost an opportunity for every single one of our students who enters Groton Public Schools in each of these areas. I would say that when I wrote about it in the board notes, I talked about it being an opportunity for relevant and rigorous coursework and opportunities. There are personal projects involved where kids can determine what they want to think about and study. And that's actually part of the capstone requirement. So every 10th grader who's completing MYP does this personal project. And I think many of you have come to see these amazing research projects that kids have been involved in, and they really pick things they're passionate about. And they say they're going to continue on with this kind of learning. And I just talked to one of my students who's up at the Apex Academy with me, and she said, why can't we have more education that's things that we really will use in life? And so we started talking about career pathways and the opportunities that are at the high school and middle school. And so I think it's really important that we have a district that is so responsive to the needs of our kids and sets the bar high for all kids. And they tend to rise to the occasion. So with that being said, we have so many kids involved in all of them in 6 through 10 in MYP. We've got most of them involved in the AP IB program. There's fewer in the actual diploma program, but we did take a little bit of a hit around COVID time, but it looks like we're springing back to that. We've had as many as 28 students in the diploma program at one time. And I would love to see that grow and flourish. Who knows, we could become an inter-district magnet and invite others in and fill those classes. So that could afford some offset funding for the district, if that were ever a possibility or it's something that the district wanted to pursue. But anyone else want to speak to that? the elevator speech. We do it. It does have a standard level and an advanced level. We just walked through some both standard level and advanced level math classes, and students were doing some very interesting projects. And I was like, where's the math in all of that? They were talking about one of the rock stars, and then all of a sudden they were talking about T-charts and listening to the music and all this mathematics that I know I probably studied at one point. But so, it really, they were so engaged. And this is a big project for them in the IB diploma program. And I would love to see more kids have those experiences.
Can I just jump in really quickly? And she probably won't want me to say this, but I was just at parents' weekends visiting my granddaughter up at school. And she said, we were talking about, I just, oh, there's a new grant. And we were talking about it. She goes, the stuff I learned at IB, she graduated from Fitch in 2021. The stuff I learned at IB truly helped me at college. She said, I really felt like I've learned so much to use the skills, and she felt it was very, very beneficial. So that's just an aside, but she was very pleased with what she had learned and how it helped her in college.
I'm going to echo that and say that the students, every year we would have the recent graduates come back from SEBA and speak to the students, that were still hadn't graduated, and they would talk on a panel. And oftentimes, the theme of it was that the work that they had done at SEBA above and beyond had prepared them for the work that they were doing, and we would have them in various stages in college. Many of them were freshmen, but some of them would come back, as upperclassmen in their college years. And they said they were so thankful that they went to a school like SEBA. Many of them said, of course, while they were at SEBA, they were, at different times, maybe had regretted their choice because they felt like they were working harder than anybody else. But, we're really thankful that they had a high school experience like that, because when many of their peers were in college, especially during that freshman year, they were really struggling, and they felt so prepared for the work that they were doing at that college level. It just really didn't compare. So, it was always very powerful for the kids to have that experience every year and be able to ask questions of those recent graduates.
And I think IB stands out because it doesn't only just talk about college, it talks about career. So you could have a student in a manufacturing career pathway, because we just met with IB again today, and they want us to be the hub, and they're going to help us. And so you could have in the trades or a career, but the level of work and understanding and the depth is so imperative. It teaches you all kinds of life skills as well, how to work together, how to think of new innovations. I mean, you need that everywhere you go, but especially in the career world. So, and Shannon, you had mentioned that too, how it really prepares for both college and career.
And Susan, we keep throwing out the term like MYP. I mean, that the middle years program is a framework that encompasses all of the classes at the middle school level. But I would like if you could elaborate just a little bit more, because we do talk a lot about the college preparation. What other career programs are we currently offering, and do we intend to offer, just so people understand?
Well,
it's not just about the college experience.
One example at Groton Middle is the Project Lead the Way, which is really a precursor to any kind of engineering. And so that's definitely, you see these magnet schools, whether you're starting at elementary, middle, or high, and how they lead to the pathways of careers. The arts and music are profound in this district. I've never seen a district pay such close attention. I marvel over it all the time. But sometimes that's the beat that makes the kid go to school. It's that beat that they, really perform for. And so, you can think about those all different kinds of careers, the nursing program and the EMT. So there is a biomedical Project Lead the Way course at the middle school. There's lots of different opportunities that we're cultivating at the middle years. And I would say the biggest thing that I find with the middle years program, besides the professional learning for the teacher on how to really make those connections and produce that high quality instruction, it comes from collaboration. So it's our teachers working together in a discipline or cross disciplines to really make things relevant for kids. So what I'm studying in ELA connects with what I'm studying in social studies. There might even be a paper that I'm doing, some partly in ELA and partly producing in social studies. There might be a book that I'm reading, a narrative book in ELA, but have both the fiction and the nonfiction component related to the social studies topic. So it really does bring the teachers together in the planning, and it helps cultivate a deeper understanding for the kids. It just makes more sense for them that they're not just going here, going there, going everywhere, because it is a very busy schedule at that middle school. So if we can do anything to really design the curriculum so that it's sensible to kids, I think that's a really good thing.
Okay, thank you very much. So now I'm going to recognize Bev and then Matthew.
Thank you, Jay. I don't want to forget to thank everyone who put in all the hard work in getting us this grant. This grant is going to be very helpful to our students. So thank you, everyone who worked hard to get us this grant. I don't want to forget to say that.
Thank you.
I know there's 2 project directors. How many project evaluators are we talking about?
So there's only one project director.
Oh, there's only one.
And there's only one evaluator, and those are both
Okay.
part-time positions, less than half-time. And then there's an IB specialist, but we're really looking at expanding our circle of friends and giving stipends to various teachers, whether it's an MYP, CP, DP, so that they can coordinate and work together. I think it's too much responsibility for one person. We had that in the past where the board paid for an IB specialist full-time, and I just have always believed that we have to widen our circle of friends and bring more people on board to the IB world and not just have one person be responsible. So I think the more people that we can bring to the table that can help support this work, the better it's going to be.
And do you have an idea, Susan? I know we have IB in the high school and we're having it in the middle school. Do you have an idea when we will have it in the elementary school? Is that something that you're looking forward to doing?
Yes, there's a scouting project. So there are funds for some professional learning and to send people out. But probably, Beverly, like we did with MYP, we were very cautious. While we were getting the grant with Learn at the time, we were considering the MYP. So we were really careful. Andrea remembers being part of this. We took field trips. We visited other schools. They came up to the high school to see the theory of knowledge. And I think that was one of the pieces that sold them, like looking at into the classroom. So the board spent a lot of time with us. We also had teachers and administrators and others very involved before we made a final decision. And I think that's what this grant is about. It's about looking into it, but not necessarily, we really want to gather the information and make a very careful decision. And I don't think that I can say that all 5 elementaries are going to take this on in 5 years. That will drive everybody. They'll say, no, too much. But there might be one school that wants to go and check it out. And it could add to their MYP or their theme as a magnet school.
Because, I'm a firm believer that the elementary schools are our foundation.
They
and
are.
Maybe by having the IB or whatever you want to call an elementary school, that will help us as we move along into the higher grade. So
I agree.
I don't think the foundation is set yet in our elementary schools. I mean, we could do better. Let me say it that way. We could do better in our elementary schools.
Yep. I agree. And I think we kind of did it backwards because we had the diploma program first.
Yeah, I think so too.
To the careers, and then we went to the MYP. So Val and I actually had the opportunity to attend a workshop on PYP. And one of the takeaways were there was a lot of things our teachers are already doing, but there's more to learn. So, and I think even the way we're going with our new reading curriculum being so much more rigorous, and I'm hearing about it all the time. And, it's a lot for our teachers and our kids to take on, but I think this would be very much in line with that.
Okay. What does PYP stand for? I'm sorry, Val. I'm sorry.
primary years program.
Okay, thank you. I'm
I
sorry,
just
Val.
want, oh no, it's me. I just wanted to say that we have the World Language Grant, and part of the PYP program is developing global citizenship. And one of the components is a second language. So we're already ahead of the game with our third, fourth, and fifth grade students receiving foreign language instruction as we speak.
Mhm.
Well, thank you again.
Thank
All
you.
right. So I'm going to recognize Matthew and then Jen.
My dexterity isn't what it was. I am so excited by the richness of what I'm listening to tonight. And so I have a question for Val and or Ben and or Sharon that's informed by the intersection of what was said about the evaluators, who I understood to be outside evaluators, and Ms. Mancini speaking about the utilization of alumni in developing the program. And it made me think of Matt Brown's article in this week's Nest. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, the high school puts out a weekly online summary of all great things that are going on in the high school. So that's called the Nest. And he discussed the broadening of our upper level performance of the class of 24. And my question is, would it be helpful as we move forward and do evaluations to consider looking at, and maybe you're doing this already, but if you're not, to consider using the class of 24, the ones who took the classes and took the exams, whether they made the score of 3 or higher or not, that they spent the time in the class, and do some kind of survey asking them what worked, what was most helpful, what were the opportunities that we're not exploring. Because for me, our client base is the students. And
Right.
any business wants to find out where they're doing right and where they can do better. So that's my question to either Val and or Ben and or Shannon. Shannon,
Matthew,
excuse me.
Matthew, great question. And I think we totally agree with you. We've started having those conversations. I was talking with Amy McKenna, assistant principal up at the high school, about collecting email addresses from last year's class and getting a survey out this winter, asking some of those questions that you just brought up. As part of the DODEA 23 grant, that's one thing where we want to look at is, are we preparing students for post-secondary success? And one of the metrics we want to use is surveying our recent graduates. So, so we're having those conversations. We're going to collect that data, survey, questions to be determined. It's something we'll develop. But yeah, I think that's a great idea to get that feedback from our students.
And when they come back to visit, whether it's homecoming, Thanksgiving, anytime opportunity, a lot of them will come by just to see their teachers. And I think it's even crafted so that there's a day back where they can talk to students that are currently at Fitch. But it would be wonderful for them, even if we could capture it in videotapes, to share with the board their readiness when they went, whether they were one of those kids who got the signing bonus and the construction hat for EB, or whether they were kids who've gone off to a college, or even a community college or a trade school. How are they feeling about their readiness?
Or kids who took the exam and had the benefits of the experience that they did not achieve everything they might have hoped for.
Right.
Thank you so much, each and every one of you, and the teachers who make all of this possible.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things that we also, I'm sending to my evaluator, they do a senior exit survey where the seniors show what they're studying in college, where they're going. So we look at that. I've also sent a survey out the end of last year to the exiting seniors on pathways, their knowledge of pathways. So we do a lot of that already in progress that we share with the evaluator.
It sounds like a future COW to share with the board all this good information.
All right, thank you very much. Now I'm going to recognize Jen.
Hi. thank you. I think I said this during our last board meeting. Thank you for applying for the grant and thank you for supporting and assisting all of us, with the to the benefit of the students within our district. So I wanted to start off with that. I'm probably going to hop back like 2 subjects ago. As we're looking at the elementary school, as you guys know, very passionate, not passionate, but I want to make sure that we give first consideration, if possible, to Charles Barnum. Yeah, Charles Barnum, just because most of the military students go there, and I feel just my personal bias, like I feel out of all of the elementary schools, like we could put a little bit more, investment into that school facility. So if, as we're looking at that the next level down from high school, middle school to elementary school, if we could just make sure that, at least in my preference, give that first priority rather than like
you,
one of
Jen.
the schools that we've already been supporting and supporting well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. And I'll echo what everyone has said so far. Thank you all for your roles in getting this grant and executing it. After tonight, once we accept the grant, we then go on to our town bodies to get permission to accept the grant. And so I believe we're at the town council tomorrow, and then we'll be at the
Yes.
RTM at a future meeting.
I am presenting at the RTM because I've been asked to do it, kind of at least 3, 4 times a year. And so I had already signed up. So Shannon and I are going to present the overarching theme of the grants like we did with the board, just to kind of get them ready. We know that we have to go back for the education committee and be able to talk to them first, and then it'll go to the RTM. So I just feel like this will help ready them and they'll understand better about the different grant opportunities that Groton is able to go for and receive and has in the, background. We actually reviewed some today that were based on some legislation, and Shannon and Lori and I went through and looked at a host of different things that are opportunities coming forward.
All right, so I'm going to recognize Ian and then anybody else that wants to speak before we entertain a motion to vote on this. Ian?
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to echo Jen's comments as far as like if we're looking to expand the IB program into the elementary. I think Charles Barnum would be a great area to look at, especially if somehow like this money's associated with that kind of move. Given the fact that it's coming from DODEA, Department of Defense, and all that. So Charles Brown does hold the overwhelming majority of our military students. So I think there's a clear logic there. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else that'd like to ask any questions or anything before we take a vote? All right, not seeing any. I will entertain a motion. I move to accept the DODEA Department of Defense Education Activity Grant Award in the amount of $1.25 million per year for 5 years.
I second that motion.
Okay,
Wait,
actually,
Shannon, did you have needed clarity?
Yeah, I don't know if this is appropriate, but Jay, you said 1.25 million per year for 5 years?
that's the way it was presented. Do I need to make a different motion?
Yeah,
It's 1.250 million for the entire 5 years.
entire 5 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So let's strike that. I'll entertain a new motion. I'll
Okay.
entertain a motion to accept the DODEA Department of Defense Education Activity Grant toward in the amount of $1.25 million over 5 years.
Mhm.
Second.
Actually, if you want to move it, Beverly,
Okay, I move it.
and then
I'll
someone
second
might-
it.
Andrea seconds. All right. Any further discussion? If not, I'm just going to take a quick roll call. Since we're on Zoom, I guess that is the way we're supposed to be doing that now. Andrea,
What? Oh, what? Is that what you mean?
Matthew,
Aye.
Adrian. I see your hand up, so I'll make that an aye. Jen, Ian,
Yes.
Beverly,
Yes.
Mike,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, team. I'll see you tomorrow night, either on Zoom or in person. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Val.
So the next agenda item, you may recall at our last regular meeting, Ian wanted to present a motion. The hour was a little bit late, so we mutually agreed that we would put it on a future agenda for tonight. So with respect to impact aid. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ian to state his motion, and then we can discuss.
Thank you, Jay. It may be easier. It's a little bit, it's a lengthy motion, but so I'll end up projecting it on the screen. But the intent here, well, I'll just move it and then we can talk about it. I don't want to take up too much time. Let's see. All right, can everyone see the document?
Yes.
Okay, so I make a motion for the Groton Board of Education to seek formal, written, and cited guidance from all relevant state and federal authorities on the recommended or proper procedure for receiving, holding, and allocating all categories of impact aid and excess revenue funds, including but not limited to special education excess revenue, Department of Defense supplemental funds, Department of Defense general pupil impact aid, and Department of Defense pupil impact aid for children with disabilities. The purpose of such information will be to initiate the process of compiling an indexed catalog of titled funds for which the district has been or is or could be qualified to receive. Such an index catalog will include but not be limited to such information as the title of the fund, executive authority, the grantor of the fund, average amount of funding from annual perspective, approximate date of annual deposits, and any associated capabilities, parameters, directions, limitations, or recommended applications in regard to receipt, processing, and allocation.
And do I have a second for discussion?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. Very good. So, Ian, did you want to just?
Sure.
I think it's pretty clear, but if you just want to give the overview.
Yeah, just as we're moving towards another budget season here, there's been, a lot of discussion about impact aid and, some differing opinions. And I think it would behoove the board to seek clarity. And what I was hoping to get out of this would be just a reference document. This is not necessarily to seek any sort of legal action. It's more about just building a reference document for the board members to use as we move forward with all the grants and all this other stuff. To be able to have a quick reference guide that we could pull up and look at the title, so we could all start using the same nomenclature and understand, certain grants have certain parameters and others have different ones, and some have sort of direct line funding, and others, take more of a bank shot through the municipal coffers. Either way, like I'm not trying to engineer an outcome of any sort here. I just want the information to be collated, and then presented in an easily digestible way that board members, not just this board, but future board members, could also use as they come onto the board, and just to understand like what these things are, how they work, and what's the best recommended practice for them, as well as who the executive authorities are that oversee them, and what expectations they have for those funds.
So I'd just like to say that, as we go through these budgets each year, we have we have a certain amount of institutional knowledge, but then other pieces of institutional knowledge go away as board members change, as there are changes in other areas of government, and so I can support getting this all indexed and cataloged, and I see this reaching into other areas as well. For example, when we got the MOU about the health insurance account. And so I think we talked about during the last budget season creating a repository of information. And I know Clint said he would work on that so that any board member could be able to click on any sort of a subject and find things without going through 10,000 Outlook email messages, and make sure that all this information is at ready reference, no matter what it is. Our policies are very nicely cataloged online now, but a lot of other things we really have to dig to find. And so I support anything that moves toward cataloging this and making it a more organized, not only budget season, but just board operations. Next, I'm going to recognize Beverly.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. I will be supporting this motion. At first, when I read it, I said, "Dog, this is a long motion." But as I reread it, it makes sense. It's something that we should be doing, and this way we're more organized, like Ian said. So I will be supporting this motion. I wish there was a way to shorten it, but it does make sense the way it's written.
And I also might suggest that, and I think we've talked about this before, maybe we can move toward an MOU so that we can memorialize some of the things we've already agreed on with the town, so that, again, when there are changes down the road, we know that these things have been agreed upon. And I will recognize Mike.
Thank you. I'll support this. I'll support this motion as well. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great. But I'd prefer to see it as two separate motions. It breaks rather nicely because there's like two purposes here. One is to get that written information about how to deal with these grants, and the other one is to initiate the basically the date index catalog. And for me, they're related, but distinct from each other. So I'm okay with voting it combined, but I just don't want one part to get lost from the other. Maybe it's better to have it as two. So I'm fine going about this in any way.
Andrea.
I'll support it as well, but I with Mike, and when Ian was reading this, I saw it really as the first section of it to be the motion, and the second section of it to be from the purpose of this such information is discussion in my view. But in any rate, I think it needs to be done as well.
See, I see the second section as sort of the legislative intent, so to speak, of the first. So, I mean, I'll defer to the majority, obviously, but I think that it creates that that intent. Next, I will recognize Matthew.
Thank you, Jay. I saw the same thing as Mike did, but I think I have a nice solution if Ian is comfortable with it. Between the words disabilities and the word the purpose of, just make it a second paragraph. It changes nothing, but it makes it much easier to read and also to understand for somebody who's not deep in the weeds.
Beverly?
More format, sorry, just to, is
Yeah.
that format or a motion to amend and split?
You handle it any way you want. It's just a suggestion.
Got it.
Beverly?
Yeah, it's almost like the first paragraph is the policy and the second paragraph is the regulation. That's what it almost seems like to me. But
Good point.
You've been doing
Andrea?
this work together too long.
Yes. Did we just convene a policy meeting? All right. So, Andrea, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, oh, I did. I really see this as an explanation of the motion. I don't think it should be a motion. I think it should be, like you said, the regulation, but not the motion, in my view. But the basic thing is this going to get done? That's the thing. Forget all that other stuff.
Ian, how would you feel about eliminating that second paragraph, Ian?
I do like that part. I mean, I would like to see that done.
I would be amenable to like doing a split or doing the split idea of having two motions that, one, we do the motion to seek all the information, and then another motion to say that with that information, we're going to create an index catalog. I can see the logic in that, but I'm a little I would be concerned with losing it altogether because, then the information could just go, sit on a shelf somewhere where, then again, we don't never get to really use it. So.
Yeah, with all due respect, I don't see how that second motion could be. I mean, if somebody just came across that motion, they'd be like, what information? I mean, I think it has to stay a cohesive whole. And the second part, being the explanation of the first. And we'll just make sure that we actually carry it through. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think that I really did wrestle with this for quite a number of days, as Jay could testify to. I was supposed to send it to him last week, but I couldn't find any other way around it because in my mind it is sort of a 1-2 step process. So.
Is there any other discussion? So if there's no other discussion, I can call for a vote. The motion on the floor is for the Groton Board of Education to seek formal written and cited guidance from all relevant state and federal authorities on the recommended and/or proper procedure for receiving, holding, and allocating all categories of impact aid and excess revenue funds, including but not limited to special education excess revenue, Department of Defense supplemental funds, Department of Defense General Pupil Impact Aid, and Department of Defense Pupil Impact Aid for children with disabilities. The purpose of such information will be to initiate the process of compiling an index catalog of titled funds for which the district has been or is or could be qualified to receive. Such an index catalog will include, but not limited to, such information as title of fund, executive authority, grantor of the fund, average amount of funding from annual perspective, approximate date of annual deposits, and any associated capabilities, parameters, directions, limitations, or recommended applications in regard to receipt, processing, and allocation. So again, I'm going to call for a roll call vote. And again, this is just how you folks are appearing on the screen. Please do not take this personally. Andrea,
Aye.
Matthew,
Aye.
Adrian. He's an aye. Jen,
I'm sorry, my audio wasn't on.
oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay, sorry. And now, because this is on, I'm not seeing the full screen. Ian,
Yes, I'm in favor.
okay. Beverly,
Yes, I'm in favor. Thank you.
okay. Mike,
Aye.
and I am an aye, so that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing it to us, Ian. And I'm glad you had a little extra time to come up with this. Matthew, did you have something to add?
No, I apologize. I
Okay.
forgot to lower my hand.
All right. All right. So thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action regarding the extension of our STA bus contract. I just want to preface this by saying that the bid documents and contract have been shared with Floyd Dugas. I wanted to make sure that we had the authority to do this, and because it was something that had been considered in the bid documents in the original negotiation, we are within the parameters. The alternative to doing this would be to put the entire thing out to bid when the current contract expires. I think you all received some information about the additional field trips that we would earn in addition to the lower rate, and field trips being 21 trips per year starting this year. That's 3 trips per school. The financial terms call for a 3.75% increase for each year in the option years. And there is also a document showing you how the STA contract for 25 through 28 compares per bus to one of our neighboring towns, First Student in New London, just for your reference. Adrian, did you have something?
Yeah, I do have a question. I mean, I see the percent increase seemed reasonable, and they compared us to New London, but I also know that our contract last time we paid for the whole day, I believe, and now it was broken up as we're paying for field trips separately. So do we know that comparing us to New London is an apples to apples comparison? Or is their contract maybe written differently than ours?
So
I
Sam,
thought I saw
is
Sam.
Yeah, Sam's on the line. Maybe he can address that. And then actually what I should have done, by the way, I should have put a motion on the floor. So once Sam does that, I'll put the motion so we can formally open the discussion.
Want me to wait on that, Jay, or go ahead and speak to it?
Yeah, if you want to speak to Adrian's question.
Yeah, I don't have any information regarding the field trips themselves, but the daily expense of the buses is what is being compared there. So that's where the savings comes in, or the difference between the two contracts are. I think it was like 600,000 over the remainder of the contract difference savings to us by comparison.
Sam, in my recollection, when we talked to STA, we were the only district that was providing the 6 to 6 in the past contract, where we had those buses were ours from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and any trip in between, as long as it was within Groton, was provided. I mean, I guess we didn't really realize how lucky we were at the time. But I don't know if that's a firm answer that New London's not getting it, but I remember them saying we were the only one left that had that kind of a contract.
Yeah, they don't have 6 to 6. They have a daily rate as well. And we were the only one that anybody was aware of that had the 6 to 6 contract. And the consultant and the others that we worked with on the new bid specs recommended going this route versus the 6 to 6, as they expected that the cost would be much greater because it was less defined, that the bus company wouldn't know exactly how many trips you would be making within that time frame. So this set of better parameters for trips. And so that's why we went to the individual trips versus a 6 to 6.
Yeah, and do we have any, or do you have any, or can you give us any insight on how much money we're actually spending outside of the daily contract? So, so how, I don't know what the total contract number was because it wasn't in here. It was just the per day rate. But how much are we spending on field trips and I guess athletics after that?
I would have to go to the business office and get that information from the business office and see where we are with that.
I see Irene's on here, so maybe that's something we can look at more closely. I think we do have the estimate from from Mark Romano for this 25-year budget. I know that we kind of went into this in the beginning of the contract, not really knowing what it would cost us, but after a year of being through it, we're a little clearer. And I think the figures are probably in our FY25 budget for the athletics.
So here's my question, Sam, before I even get into this motion. Is time of the essence that we would have to actually vote on this tonight, or can we request more information and put this on the regular agenda for the regular meeting in October? Is there a deadline on this offer?
No, there's no deadline. Although they'd like to do it sooner rather than later so they can plan. And this would also give us our field trips
sooner. And our principals are hungry for them.
Right.
They
so
don't
in other
want to pay
words,
for them.
These 21 field trips can start as soon as we vote.
Right.
So, is there anyone else before I put this on? I'm going to recognize you, Jen, and then I'm going to ask if there's anyone else that would prefer that we discuss this at the next regular meeting and get additional information in the meantime. Jen?
So Sam had presented this during the finance meeting. I believe it was last week or the week before. And if one of the things that you should remember is that for the main contract, right, the percentage increase in the first 2 years of the contract is significantly higher. So as a district, we've already paid for the higher rate increase. The 3% or the 3.75% that you're seeing was negotiated almost as like, hey, you pay the higher fee early on your contract, and then as an option, you can have this lower fee rate increase. So that's just something that I want the board to consider, which we did not discuss as of yet, but considering where inflation is, and if we have to put this out to vote, I would assume or suspect that the 3.75 would be higher. So this was already negotiated at one point in time, like 3 years ago or 2 years ago. So I would highly recommend that we consider this and take advantage of the work that people before us, put in place so that we can at least have some benefit regarding this contract extension. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Jen. Adrian, did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, I would personally just like to know what other towns, what kind of contracts are out there, because although it does seem like a reasonable increase from what we have, Was that contract that we signed last year just because of a situation? Are there more players in the market now that might be willing to bid? So just extending this a year is really, taking on another, or 2 years is taking on another contract. And by doing it now, although that field trip thing is kind of a teaser, um, are we kind of shooting ourselves in the foot if there's a better deal out there later?
Well, we would only know that if we went out to bid. And that would be the danger. But I'm going to recognize Irene. First of all, welcome, Irene. Irene is our new business manager, director of finance. And so I welcome you to the meeting.
Thank you so much, Jay. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Typically during a presidential election year, there's a few things that you do not want to do. And one of them is try to open up contracts such as this to bid, as well as go out for borrowing. So I would recommend, just on my prior 18 years of experience, that if we are extending, we extend for at least a year to 2 years to lock in the rate, because you may see the rate go the other way if we try to open it up to bid. And that's just my past experience and my recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much. Sam?
Myself, okay, unmuted again. So I do want to add that the administration at STA has been very cooperative with us over the years, and that any problems that they're having presently are the same that others are having in the region, and that is some absenteeism, which is pretty much uncontrollable. But they've been very cooperative, and in addition to that, they have just recently put 30 new buses, 29 or 30 new buses online for us. So that is another benefit of working with STA at this time.
And I think 10 new buses for the smaller buses. So it's almost like having a new fleet. And then cameras to go with it that aren't working, and they've entertained GPS systems. So there's a lot of things that they're looking at to improve the operations of the buses and the maintenance and getting new buses for us.
All right. Well, I'm going to put a motion on the floor, and then if we want to discuss further, we can. I'll entertain a motion to extend the contract between the Groton Board of Education and STA of Connecticut Incorporated from July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2028, with an increase of 3.75% in each year of the extension, and to accept the offer of 21 free field trips per year, that's 3 per school, beginning in the current 2024-2025 contract year, and extending each year thereafter until June 30th, 2028. Does anyone want to move that? So Bev moves it. Anyone want a second?
I'll move. So I'm seconded.
Seconded by Andre.
Yep.
All right. I'll recognize Ian.
Thank you. So just a couple of questions. To my understanding, that a lot of other towns that have SDA as a contractor or have any sort of bus contract, that the contractor constructs the routes. And is it different for Groton? And if so, why?
Yeah, we have bus coordinators here at the central office that actually do our routing for us.
And those bus coordinators are GPS employees, or are they STA employees?
Public schools employees, yes.
But they had been STA employees, and there's a Transversa software that they use that the bus company has provided for us to use. But the difference is that we're able to, since there are employees, use Power School data to combine with Transversa.
Okay,
so communication going back and forth on a daily basis between Power School and Transversa and our coordinators in the office.
Okay, so I'm just curious to know, like, so it's done in collaboration with the bus company, but what's the difference, I guess, between our district and others? That has us doing it differently, or is it that different?
Ledyard has coordinator as well, so they only have one. We have two because we split the time. But Ledyard also has a bus coordinator that works on routing and stuff too.
Yeah, every district I've ever worked for, and there have been four at least, that have had people at the central office who also coordinate with the bus company. It just gives more personalized care and attention, especially if if anything happens, you can get that information right out to families.
Thank you. So I can understand and identify, I can echo both Jen's sentiments and Adrian's as well. I'm of two minds on this situation. And with all the other items we've had to deal with, this has not been a item we've done a deep dive on. So I would like more comparative information. To get, is there a deadline on us making this decision? Like when is the deadline that we have to vote on this?
They didn't give me a deadline. However, they're waiting because they have a contract for working with the property owner. And you probably already know that all the bus drivers, or most of the bus drivers, are also Groton residents. So that gives the drivers a sense of comfort
Stability.
that they have a job with them for the next 3 years as well. So.
And I would say our principals are anxious with these trips that we don't have to pay for some of them with the operations funds. So that's also a cost savings for us.
Okay. So, and it has to be a 2-year extension. There's no middle ground there. We can't go year by year. Just get us some more time.
I don't think we're going to do better than 3.75%. If you take it out to bid, it's like starting the process all over again. But I see Irene's hand. She's much more knowledgeable than I am on this.
I agree with Susan. This is a time that we need to lock in the rate. Typically, in my prior experience at state, local, and county level, people will only hold the quote for 30 days. And after that, they could change based upon an increase in gas prices, an increase in, the wages for the people driving the buses. All those different variables start coming into play. So typically what I've seen is anything, if we extend beyond 30 days, then we start getting different information where they have to raise rates based upon the current information they're provided with.
All right. So at this point, I'm going to recognize Jen, then Bev, then Mike.
Well, I just
and
wanted to
Adrian.
close out one thought there, Jay, if I could, and then I'll yield the floor. So yeah, I mean, I honestly, I would just like some more time with this. So I'm going to think about that for a minute. And I may make another motion or an amendment or something, but I got to think about it for a couple minutes. But I do welcome hearing everybody else discuss it for another round or so. Thank you.
Right. So I'm going to recognize Jen, then Bev, then Adrian.
So this isn't in relation to the contract. This is me realizing that we have two coordinators on staff for next year. Not really sure who reviews their work, but I would like someone to review the bus coordinated routes, and if we are to have hubs, that it be discussed, like any major changes with whoever the supervisor or manager or whoever's ultimately responsible for that decision, because I don't want what happened this year to happen next year. We could do better now that I realize we have people on staff who know our roads. Shame on me for thinking that it was the school vendor who was like determining the routes. So shame on me on that. And so next year we can do better.
And Jen,
That's
Jen,
it.
just to clarify, that wasn't the decision of the coordinators. They're
Okay.
the staff that carry out the directions. So,
Okay.
all right. So now I'm going to recognize Bev, then Adrian, and then Andrea.
Thank you. Sam, can you tell us what happened the last time we went out to bid? How many bids we actually got? And what are we going to accomplish by doing a deep dive into this contract? I mean, the contract is the contract. I agree with Irene. If we keep waiting, they can go up on it. They can change it. And we only had, what, Sam, 2 bids the last time?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, we're only 2 bids the last time.
And
Yeah.
this was the
So,
last.
yeah. So I don't know what we're going to get, what Ian wants to get at a deep dive. Maybe he can explain that more to me. But I think this is it. Either we extend it or we don't extend it. But I don't think we're going to do much better.
So I'll recognize Adrian and then Andrea.
Jay, I'd rather hear what Irene has to say before I speak.
She did.
Oh, I thought her hand.
So it's Adrian, then Andrea, and then Mike.
Okay. Okay, I thought I saw her hand. Adrian, then Andrea,
Adrian?
then Mike.
Yeah, Adrian, you have
All
the
right,
floor.
sorry. By my reading of the contract, I didn't see that we were reopening it up. I mean, we agreed to this where we can just extend it and they don't have a say in it. And we can do this until later next year, correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes,
Right. Then we don't get the field trips.
right.
Yeah, so there, like I said, there's the 21 field trips. That's kind of like the little whatever sugar on top that they kind of offered to get us to sign it sooner, but nothing. We're not renegotiating anything. They agreed, like we're in a fixed contract until the end of next year, so until June of 2026, and then there's just offers of additional years after that to 27 and 28. So the only thing we'd be losing by not doing this now are the additional field trips, which we're not even necessarily losing. It's just they would prefer to have it sooner. Am I correct in that understanding?
Sam, is the 3.75 locked in?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The
If we,
field trips amount to quite a bit because they're not just 3 bus rides. They're like the biggest trips that the school district takes. Like last year, Groton Middle, one of the trips was all the way to Ocean Beach with all the 8th grade. That trip would have cost thousands of dollars. So it's not just a little icing on top. It's pretty substantial, each of those field trips. So,
Yeah,
and they're pretty strategic about making sure that they do the highest quality. Sometimes it's multiple grade levels going to the, seaport or somewhere else. So, it is something that we are fortunate and looking forward to. And it does offset some of the budget.
Yeah, so the 21 trips is not 21 buses for a
No.
day. It's
No.
sorry, because it doesn't really say that, but
It doesn't say that. I didn't think you might have remembered that, but I wanted you to be clear that this was a pretty nice offer. That it's multiple buses for whatever trip within, and it can go across the bridge to the Guard, or it can go across the bridge, the other way into Mystic, into the seaport.
yeah, I mean, I guess still I would prefer to see what to me it doesn't seem like we have to make a decision right now. And I would prefer to see what contracts other districts might have. And if there's I mean, substantially better deals out there. And it's just because we don't know. All we have is kind of a general thing on New London. And that's with the same contractor. So I'm curious to know if other contractors are offering better rates, or if we can solicit some of those contracts to have some kind of comparison. So I guess that's my 2 cents. Thank
That
you.
is a different contractor. That's First Student in New London. So I'm going to recognize Mike and then Ian.
Thank you. I align with Bev on this, since this is an extension. We're not reopening the whole contract. And so I would be very much in favor of voting on this tonight, because having that extra information, that information locked in at this point, will help us have a smoother budget process as we go forward this year. And I do recognize, like as people have been bringing up, Adrian, with the field trips, and that's an issue I think that will continue to come up. And I know the Booster Club has helped support some athletic field trips, and I just wanted to emphasize that there are also activities, clubs that want to take field trips too, and they don't have that necessarily that supplementary source of funds that they might know about. And so we should work to find a way that the activities, not just the sports, have that same access to traveling. But I'm going to vote for this, and hopefully tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I'm going to recognize Ian and then Andrea.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm just and I appreciate all the conversation and all the questions just to help get a handle on this. I understand that we're not looking to renegotiate the terms of the contract. It's just that we haven't had a lot of opportunity to discuss the bus situation in general and also an overall approach. I wouldn't mind more time, but I understand the urgency as well. I appreciate Mike's comments about stabilizing for the upcoming budget. And to be clear, like I was just rereading the opening letter here. It says, in consideration of the Groton Board of Ed exercising their option for the final 2 years of the contract, SDA will agree to the following contract improvements. So they're basically asking for the final 2 years. The current contract runs up, as Adrian identified, June 30th of 2026. Is that correct? And then the final 2 years that they're talking about in this letter would be the year ending July 1st, 2020. Oh, I'm sorry. June 30th, 2027, and then June 30th, 2028. So the next time that we have an opportunity, if we vote for this tonight, or whenever we vote for this, if it passes and we accept the last 2 years option, that locks us into this company up through 2028, June 30th, 2028. And when would the process begin if that vote was successful, if we did lock into that? When would we begin the research and analysis to start shopping around for a new vendor, if that was a choice we wanted to make?
It seemed like it took at least a year, Sam, to go through the whole process. So you'd have to start the year before, year and a half before, I think.
Yes.
So, yeah, okay. So that would be, let's see, 2027 back up to around like the end of 2026 into the beginning of 2027, around December 26, July or January 27.
That would be reasonable.
Okay.
Correct. You'd be looking at a 24-month, 18-month at the bare minimum review.
And that's where we could have the opportunity to do a deep dive analysis on sort of like districts in the state, comparative analysis as far as like what kind of routes the buses run. Are they intradistrict magnets like us, or are they, more localized in their school approach?
Correct. But you also have to keep into consideration when we're doing comparison. In some cases, we're doing apples to oranges. If they have fully electric buses if they have hybrid models versus gasoline models. So we'd have to look at all three variables.
Right, of course, and that will take some time, and I look forward to that level of analysis. And also, I think it's also important that we're not just focused on the rates, but it's also the overall, you know, delivery of service and management and the whole comprehensive approach. So, you know, having heard all this discussion, I could be in favor of voting for the extending the options now and just stabilize the budget discussions and be able to kind of bank our time and get ready to you know, build the infrastructure so we're ready to do a fairly aggressive analysis moving forward into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. I'm going to recognize Andrea, then Matthew, and then Jen.
Thank you, Jay. I noticed that my hand goes down automatically. I didn't put it down either time that it went down. At any rate, I wanted to I'm happy to hear what Ian said, but I wanted to say that we hire the big guns to advise us, and they're advising us to do this now, and we should rely on their wisdom and their knowledge, and we should follow their advice. That's what we pay them to do, to advise us.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. And I'm sorry, I wasn't aware either. I was wondering why your hand was going up and down. I didn't realize that was a function of Zoom. We'll get you the updated version. Let's see, Matthew, and then Jen.
Thank you. Generally, I like the idea of deep dives, but, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Sam. My recollection is that last time we put out bids knowing that there are 6 or 7 companies that do school bus routes within the state of Connecticut. But whether they give better service or not, none of them want to deal with southeastern Connecticut. We were in a situation where only 2 companies bid. And so a deep dive will give us information about other parts of the state that at the end of the day are not going to be relevant because those companies are not going to bid. I think the deep dive is a very good idea, but I think we should lock in the opportunity now. It's not going to hurt us. I'm done. Thank you.
Jen?
Sorry, hold on, I'm getting there. I just want to go back to where I started when we first brought this up. 3.75 is below inflation. We are going to lock in a rate at 3.75, you know, so I think that's pretty good. As I mentioned originally in the contract, the earlier years, it was a higher rate. So let's take the benefit of the option that was negotiated at this lower rate. Unless the board thinks inflation is going to go down to like 1 to 2% below that 3.75, but Sam went through this with the Board of like the Finance Subcommittee. Bev was there, Dean was there. You know, we all thought it was a reasonable proposal from the bus company. We get the added bonus that's been mentioned, the stability. We get the additional trips. We already have bus drivers who are employed, know the routes, know the children, will not create disruption. They are providing us, I believe, Sam, you had mentioned 2 buses already and looking to upgrade some of our other buses. So yes, normally I agree with the deep dive. You guys know I love data as much as the rest of us. But in this instance, I think the data already is there and we just I would like for us as a board to vote tonight if possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. And I think also these 29 new buses that we're getting, Sam, we agree that the buses are older, but I do believe that they are replacing them prior to the contractual requirement.
That's correct. And
They're
there were
2024 buses. They're this year's bus.
Right. And so I do appreciate what STA has done. I realize that no one liked the first couple of years of this contract, but I am very appreciative to know that we have these new buses coming online, even though we didn't have to invoke the contract to do it. And so I would just like to thank them for that. And at this point, I will recognize Bev.
Yeah, they started that process of bringing on those new buses before this new proposal was made as well. So those buses were already ordered and ready to come here.
I just want to say I agree with Jen. I like data too, but being that we only had two companies the last time bidding, I don't see what a deep dive is going to get us at this time. I don't think there's going to be any more companies that are going to bid for our buses, our bus routes. So I agree with Jen. So far, things are working well with STA. The drivers got a pay increase. That was nice of them to do. I mean, the drivers seem happy. I didn't get not one phone call this year complaining about routes or anything from the drivers. So last year I got plenty of phone calls from the bus drivers. And they seem to be working well with us. So I will vote to put this on the agenda tonight. It's on the agenda, but let's vote on it and move on. And I will be voting for it. Thank you. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev. And Andrea.
Okay, I have one last thought, and that is, you know, that I'm always looking at the human aspect of things. And as I listen to Bev and to Matthew, and well, actually everybody, you don't want to kick people in the teeth. And these people have, and actually, Jay, you said it, these people have come up and done a humanistic thing, and we should act in accord and recognize that element that I'm always looking at. That's it.
All right. If there's no more discussion, are we ready for a vote? So the motion on the floor is to extend the contract between the Groton Board of Education and STA of Connecticut Incorporated from July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2028, with an increase of 3.75% each year of the extension, and to accept the offer of 21 free field trips, 3 per school, beginning in the current 2024-2025 contract year and extending each year thereafter until June 30th, 2028. And again, I'm going to take a roll call. Andrea.
Wait, do we vote?
So
are we?
Okay.
We already, no, I'm sorry, we already introduced and seconded.
Oh, you did?
And
okay.
I just restated the motion before we vote. Because I think that's what Joan would want me to do.
I love Joan.
Matthew.
Aye.
And Joan also wants me to record votes better. So, Adrian.
Aye.
Jen.
Aye.
Ian.
Yes, aye.
Beverly.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
And I cast my vote as aye. So that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now it's time for Andrea.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you all.
I can
Wonderful work.
second.
Okay, seconded by Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everybody. I know this was an extra meeting.